questions, and I guess ask them as you go along, or hold them till the end, whichever you prefer. It's going to be very informal and casual, which is what they requested. They'll introduce themselves. This is Pastor Art, who is going to welcome everyone with a prayer to begin. So there's refreshments in the back. Help yourself to whatever. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. And hello, everyone. My name is Art Monroe. I'm one of the chaplains with Bridging Life. It's been my great honor and privilege to have been. Okay, thank you. Well, once again, my name is Art Monroe. I'm a chaplain with Bridging Life. It's been my great honor and privilege to have been a chaplain for 9 years and counting now. It was my even greater honor to be the chaplain for the Dove House from March of 2020 through April of 2022. So I was the chaplain for the Dove through the pandemic. What can I say? But God has plans that are much more marvelous than we could have ever imagined, because as a 20-something-year-old, if you would have asked me what I would be doing at this time in life, I would have not answered being a hospice chaplain, much less being a chaplain for an inpatient unit during a pandemic. But we've had some wonderful, wonderful experiences. The opportunity to provide support for our patients has been absolutely amazing. And I thank you for letting me start off with a word of prayer. So let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the blessings that you placed in our lives. We thank you for all the times of our lives. Times in which our health is wonderful and we're strong and vibrant and seemingly limitless in what we can do physically and mentally. But you are still God when we can't quite do as much as we used to, and our thoughts are a little more scattered. You may even be a little more present and close in those times, because we need you more. So Heavenly Father, I thank you for bringing those here at Bridging Life to this place to have the opportunity to speak to this wonderful group of people. I ask that they see our hearts and know how important this work is to us. And we thank you, Heavenly Father, and through the name of your Son, Jesus the Christ, in whose name we pray. Amen. I shall now hand the microphone to someone.
Hi, how is everybody today? Welcome, or welcome, I'm welcomed here. This is my first time here. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Jen Garner, or Jennifer Garner, not the Jennifer Garner, clearly. But I am married to Ben, but not Ben. I am a nurse practitioner, and I am the director of the community-based palliative care program. We have two different palliative care programs with Bridging Life. One is the inpatient program, and those are practitioners who are seeing patients in the hospital. And majority of the time, those patients are, or those practitioners are then serving goals of care conversations and helping with some symptom management needs. But on the outpatient side, what we do is we visit people wherever they live. So if they are living in a home or a nursing home or assisted living facility, we will go to any of those facilities or places that they call home and visit them there. Now, palliative care, to palliate means to free from suffering. So our goal in palliative care is to help the person to feel good. We want to increase their quality of life. We are different from hospice, right? Hospice comes at the end of life, when you have a life expectancy of 6 months or less, whereas palliative care can come at any point in the disease process. So when someone's diagnosed with a chronic illness, The palliative care can serve them at that point by educating them with regards to what their disease is and what their disease trajectory looks like. And we can also do goals of care conversations. So that's a lot of what we do, is make sure that people have their advance directive and another form that's called a MOLST, which is a medical order for life-sustaining treatment. So they're different. Advance directive is naming who you want to make medical decisions for you in the event that you can't make a medical decision for yourself. And then it also says what you want at the end of life, what that looks like for you, whether you want aggressive care or you want comfort care. And so we have that conversation because we really want to make sure that we know what you want. That's so very important. And then the MOLST form is the form that says what you want right now. So it's the DNR form, right? So what the MOLST says is a medical order. So it is telling the EMTs whether or not to do chest compressions or whether or not you want to go to the hospital. And so that form is especially important if you don't want those things. So we have that conversation. We can have that any point in the disease process, right? Especially in the middle, in the beginning, in the middle, or even the end. And I generally, especially with the MOLST, I'll review that around birthday time. And we'll say, bless you. We'll say, what do you want today? You know, what's life looking like, right? So, because things change. And then also we'll have that conversation again if there's a change in status, if something has happened and we need to talk about it, or if someone says, hey, I want to change my MOLST. So the advance directive is considered a long term, but we can change it. Same thing with MOLST, we can change it. But another big thing we do in palliative care is we're also focused on symptom management, emotional support, and also spiritual support. So on our team, we have nurse practitioners who will focus on that physical support. If you're having any kind of symptom management need that is related to your chronic illness, what we'll do is we'll try to work with that. We will try to help you feel better because that's our goal. And that could be anything from pain, difficulty breathing, sleep, not eating, all kinds of things. Anything you can think of that could cause you distress is what we are experts at and what we try to help with. And then we also help with emotional support. So we have a clinical social worker who can provide emotional support or therapeutic intervention to help with any distress you may be feeling emotionally from your disease process. And then, although we don't have chaplains on our specific team, we borrow, because we're part of Bridging Life, we borrow the chaplains from our hospice organization to help with any spiritual distress or spiritual support that a person may need. Now, when I said that we visit patients where they are in their homes, we can also visit patients in a clinic environment. So I would visit someone in their home if they weren't capable or it was really difficult for them to make it to an appointment. If you are able to walk and doing really well, then we might do that visit at the Tevis Wellness Center. They give us space there so that we can visit a person there. And this is really coming down to billing. So palliative care, the nurse practitioner visits are billable to the insurance company just like a doctor's visit. But of course, the insurance company doesn't necessarily want to pay for that if you're able to get to an appointment yourself. So you have to be home restricted in order for us to come to your home. But if you're not, we can see you in a clinic environment over at the Tevis Wellness Center. And that generally works out pretty well. We usually see people monthly. So we are not the type of care that takes over. Right? So in hospice, when someone gets on hospice, generally the hospice providers take over with collaboration from the attending physician, which is sometimes and generally the primary care provider. In palliative care, the primary care provider, the specialist, they are still very much in charge of your care. We're just an extra added layer of support focusing on those quality of life issues that you may have. So you can still go to the emergency room, you can still go to all your doctor's visits, you can still have home health visit you. So those are all, it's just an extra layer of support. We don't take over the care, we just help with those symptom management needs that you may have. So with that, it's a pretty quick synopsis. Does anybody have any questions they can think of right off the top of their head?
Do you need a doctor's orders for palliative care?
You do not. Anybody can refer. So there's no need for an order unless you have an insurance that says you require, an order. But other than that, you do not need an order. So hospice and palliative care are also different in the fact that hospice is very heavily regulated, so you have to have an order, you have to have a nurse that visits you weekly, you have to do all these things. Palliative care is not. It's specialty medicine, so it's just kind of like a cardiologist or a dermatologist or something like that. It's specialty medicine, and you don't need an order unless you require that from your insurance company. Yes?
Okay, if it's only that your insurance company requires it, what's Medicare? Does Medicare?
No, Medicare does not require an order. And of course, Medicare pays at 80%. So if you have a secondary insurance, that will cover the copay. But if you only have Medicare, then you may have a copay.
Do you prescribe drugs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so we have, in the state of Maryland, nurse practitioners have full practice authority. So we can prescribe medications, whether it be a pain medication or, a duo-nebs or anything that could really require the support of medication we can help with. Now, we don't take over that, the care of the person, right? The primary care. So I'm not going to order your blood pressure medications or things like that your primary care provider would generally do, but I'll do things that are related to the symptoms. So many people, pain medications in general, a lot of providers feel very uncomfortable managing. We feel very comfortable managing, so we will often take over that pain management for people.
Okay, is there communication with, between the palliative care staff and the physician?
Yes. So oftentimes, of course, if I find something that the primary care provider needs to know right away, I'll give them a call, but we're also sending all of our notes to their primary care providers and often their specialists as well. So not only do we get referrals from the community, but we also get referrals from providers as well. And so the oncologists there at Callert here at Carroll will refer to us very regularly, and of course we share all of our information with them, and if we feel like we should really discuss a plan, we'll give them a call. Yes. Good questions. Very good. Okay, well, I will pass it on. If you think of anything else, please don't hesitate. And I will also say, I'm sorry, just to refer, you can always call the same number as our hospice number, the 871-8000, and then there's an option number 3 for the palliative care department.
All right, so my name is Brenda, and I've been one of the nurses with hospice for about 10 years now. So my goal is to kind of help you understand the difference between hospice and palliative care and what hospice care looks like and all the services that comes with that care. So with palliative care, we're still pursuing aggressive treatment, right? We're still going for dialysis, chemotherapy, radiation. We're still getting home physical therapy, occupational therapy, all that good stuff. So we're still getting curative treatment while also getting another layer of support during that chronic illness. So that's palliative care. With hospice care, that's a different type of level of care. So we recognize that a chronic illness has now turned into a terminal illness. Medicare puts very strict guidelines around what hospice care is and how we qualify someone to enter hospice care. So in order to enter hospice care, you have to have a prognosis of 6 months or less. That's not always the case with hospice. Sometimes people stay under our service for 6+ months. We've had people on service for years. And sometimes people actually get better with hospice care and we discharge them back to palliative care. So again, Medicare says we have to have an illness that's terminal with a 6 months or less life expectancy. So when that happens, typically it's one of two things. Either a physician has come to a patient and family and says, unfortunately, there's not much more we can do for your disease, or patients and their families decide, you know what, I don't want to spend X amount of my time going back and forth to doctors and to the emergency room. I want to spend it aging in place. I want to be at home. I want to go to the beach again. I want to watch grandkids play soccer. So that's kind of the time that your doctor has to get an order. Okay, so we need an order to come onto hospice care. So once you come under hospice care, we have to make sure that you certify. Again, Medicare is putting strict guidelines. So we certify you for hospice, and at that point you get to decide who is in charge of your hospice care. It can be your oncologist, your community physician, or you can even opt to have our hospice physician kind of direct the level of care that you're going to have. Okay? So with that, hospice will go to wherever you call home, and we go wherever that is. We go to prisons, we go to homes, we go to assisted living facilities, nursing facilities, homeless shelters, we go to the ARC. Wherever someone calls home is where we're going to go. So the hospice nurse will visit as often as that patient needs a visit. So it's very individualized care. So if you're under hospice and you're having a good week, the nurse may only need to visit you once that week. But if you're having a rough week, the nurse may need to be out there every single day. So again, it's tailored to that patient and to that family. With hospice, you'll also get a hospice aide that comes in to help provide personal care. So that aide is going to help with any kind of bathing, preparing a light meal, getting you dressed, getting you up. So the aide comes, again, individualized care as often as that patient and that family needs that assistance. With hospice, we also have the support of a social worker, and the social worker's guide is really to help with emotional support and, again, make sure the goals or care is still aligning at where you're at in hospice, okay? You do not have to be a do not resuscitate, so you don't have to be a DNR to come onto hospice. We take people who are full code onto hospice all the time, and the thing is we meet you wherever you're at in your disease, and our job as the hospice caretakers are to continually educate you on what the disease is doing and what that trajectory looks like. So the social workers are there to help you navigate that, understand the disease along with the medical care team, and make the appropriate decisions for you and your family. We also have chaplains on service. Our chaplains will also they have a lot of ties within the community to different rabbis. For example, our Catholic patients, we have sometimes will tap into some of the local Catholic churches to help provide last rites. So the chaplains, if they cannot provide the services our patient needs, they actually will reach out into community support to get extra support for that patient, for their denomination. We have a robust volunteer team, and Kathy will talk about that a little later, but our volunteers are what I call the heart of our hospice. So we have volunteers that volunteer their time and their talents to our organizations. So for example, if you're caring for your loved one at home and you have a doctor's appointment to go to, or you just need a break, you just need to go take a walk around the neighborhood, we have volunteers that are trained that will come sit with your loved one and provide companionship, okay? So they do a lot of other things, and I'll let Kathy talk about that, but the volunteer support is really another huge layer of support for our patients and families, especially in facilities where family can't quite visit as often, or even in the homes where we have one caretaker, and we recognize caretaking is a really hard job. With hospice, you can still get physical therapy, speech therapy, however the goals with that is a little bit different. When you're in home care, we want to get you to the optimal level of functioning. With hospice, it's a little bit different. Maybe we're teaching you how to use a walker for a first time, or how your loved one can transfer you safely, if you're getting weaker. So we still provide that support. The support just has a different goal of care. Finally, with hospice, the last thing we offer is bereavement. So when your loved one passes in hospice, we follow their family for up to 13 months. Our bereavement team not only provides support to hospice patients, but they actually do a lot of work in the community as well. So they will follow your loved one for up to 13 months, getting them through the first everything, the first holiday, the first birthday, the first Christmas. We have community drop-in bereavement that you can do at our Dove House in Westminster. We do phone support. We have a tremendous amount of community support groups through hospice and through the Tevis Wellness Center at the hospital. So hospice is a huge layer of support that comes in, and we're not only there to provide love and support for that patient, but hospice is to provide love and support for whoever is caring for that patient and their family. So it's a big layer of support that we provide. We are lucky enough to have 3 inpatient units. If for any reason your loved one, let's say, was caring for you and they wanted to go away to the beach for the weekend, we are lucky enough to have our hospice houses where you can do a respite stay. Medicare will give you a 5-night, 6-day respite stay where you can respite your loved one to get cared for 24/7 by hospice staff, and then they would get discharged back to wherever they called home. We'll also use that for any symptom management issues. So if you're in the home and we've worked really hard on managing your pain, but we quite can't get that pain managed, we can also offer you a stay at one of those inpatient units, because they're like a hospital for our hospice patients, to help get the symptom managed, with the goal being to discharge back to the home where you came from. So any questions on hospice care?
For those of us that have long-term care policies, do you work in coordination with them, or is it up to family members?
So all insurances in Medicare typically cover hospice at 100%. Some of the commercial insurance may have a copay, but the long-term care insurance usually kind of kicks in when someone's looking for placement or extra care within the home. So yes, our team of social workers helps family navigate through those kind of financial issues. Any other questions? Yeah.
I didn't understand quite so much how, if they do, how palliative care and hospice interwork with one another. I didn't catch that so much.
So our palliative care team, so there's something called a continuum of care, okay? So we recognize when someone is diagnosed with a chronic illness, there wasn't really a huge amount of support for them, right? They were constantly going back and forth to the doctors, re-hospitalized. So palliative care, the goal of palliative care is to kind of take someone before they get sick enough for hospice care, kind of under their wing, and help them navigate that disease. Help them understand what that disease looks like, how it's going to change for them, and then again, looking at your goals of care. So if you were just diagnosed with, let's say, congestive heart failure, do you understand what that disease means? Do you understand what's happening? A lot of the times the physicians don't have the time to really sit down and help you understand exactly what's happening with that disease. So palliative care will come in and do that. They will help manage symptoms for comfort. And then if for any reason that disease goes from chronic to terminal, palliative care, again, they've been having conversations the whole time with you about your goals of care. They will then make a referral over to hospice should you want to come over to hospice. People don't have to come into hospice care. You can stay in palliative care indefinitely as long as you have that chronic illness. Does that help clear it up?
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Is most hospice care in the person's home?
No, so it just depends. So you can care for your loved one in the home. We go to assisted living homes. We go to nursing homes. We go down to Springfield, which is right in Eldersburg. We go to homeless shelters, the ARC homes. So wherever someone is living that needs hospice care is where we're going to go to provide it. And the beauty about our program is if someone cannot afford hospice or palliative care, we do take people who can't afford it, right? Because it's the right thing to do for our community. So yeah, that's a good question.
When somebody's in a state of dementia and getting progressing along towards Alzheimer's or whatever, who makes the decision at that point? Is it the family that if they're physically not incapable, but the dementia has set into that point where hospice might be, or is palliative care still an option for a person like that?
Absolutely. So Medicare puts very strict guidelines on what qualifies someone, let's say dementia, for example. We have very strict criteria. So someone may or may not qualify under that guideline by Medicare for hospice. If your loved one is suffering with dementia, dementia is one of those hard diseases where sometimes it progresses quickly and other times it's more of a slow kind of trajectory with decline. So typically, I would probably say geared to the side of looking at palliative care, but if they've had enough of a decline, you can always talk to your physician about getting a referral for hospice. Hospice will come out and evaluate that patient, talk to our hospice doctor to see if they qualify. If they do, we'll admit them to hospice. If not, we can actually refer them back to palliative care.
And I would interject here too. One of the things that palliative care also does
is, we're trained as to what those Medicare rules are that qualify someone for hospice. And so when we feel that the person may qualify for hospice, we'll start that conversation and then refer, if appropriate, to hospice. So we do have that, we know what to look for in terms of decline to determine if someone qualifies for hospice or not.
There's just one other thing I wanted to ask or add that we haven't talked about yet. You see, there's all this support. This is not an 8 to 4:30 endeavor. Every single support, be it chaplain, social worker, nurse, aide, is 24 hours. There is always someone on call all the time, be it social worker or be it chaplain. I was on call this weekend. I started at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. I ended at 8 o'clock this morning. I was in homes, I was in the hospital, I was in facilities. I went wherever I needed to go because that's the commitment level that we have. We are going to have all of that support available all the time. I just wanted to mention that.
Palliative is a little different. So although we are available 24 hours, we're an extra layer of support. Now, if someone calls because of a prescription that I've ordered and they need help with it, they know, the intake at hospice knows to give me a call and I'll take care of it. But if it's an emergency situation in a palliative care environment, they can still call their primary care and they can still go to the emergency room. So it's a less intensive with the palliative care.
Any other questions? No? Okay. On that note, I'm going to hand it to Kathy, who is our volunteer coordinator.
I just want to start by saying thank you so much for being bold and being here. I applaud you because these conversations around palliative and hospice care, they're difficult. So you've entered into a very courageous conversation and allowed yourself to hear some difficult things. So I applaud you for that because hospice care, those of us on the team, it's an honor. So some people, when they hear about hospice or palliative care, they kind of keep it out here. And they don't want to talk about it and they don't want to hear about it. And why in the world would you want to volunteer for hospice? Why would you want to do that? Well, very quickly you realize it's an honor to be walking beside a patient and a family who's transitioning, who's got one foot kind of in both worlds, is what I like to say. And I tell my volunteers when I volunteer with them that choosing to die well is choosing to live well. Because you're alive all the way up until you're not. And nobody leaves this world alive. So no matter what you think or believe about the afterlife, you can live well up into the very end, and that's what palliative and hospice care is about. It's about helping you live well, helping you be comfortable and be able to find joy. And so I'm a Christian, and so I look at this a bunch of different ways, but I believe that we are called to care for one another in community. We are called to do that kingdom work. And so it's just kind of a natural thing for me to be involved with volunteers who are caring for their community through hospice care. And so my volunteers do a lot of great things. They'll go in to those inpatient units or to those facilities or into people's homes or wherever they are and be a companion. They've got training, they've got 16 or more hours of training. We don't just send somebody out there, but we realize that there are things that a volunteer can do that we don't need to ask a paid staff person to do. A volunteer can just sit and be, read a book, play music, pray with, sing songs with, just watch television with a patient who needs somebody. Because we don't live in a world anymore where everybody's right in the same, families in that same state. Everybody's all off in different places, and so we can be that family for them. And then the other thing, like Brenda was saying, is my volunteers can also go in and provide that respite care. Caregiving is hard work, very hard work. And so you can't pour from an empty cup. So we encourage our caregivers, go do something for yourself. We have a volunteer that can come in and sit with your patient, your family, while you go out and care for yourself. But then my volunteers do all other kinds of things. When you come into hospice care, you get a folder that's about this thick with all kinds of very important information in it, and somebody's got to put those folders together. And that's what my volunteers do. Volunteers actually started hospice. A long, long time ago, people like you and me just kind of came along beside families that had somebody dying, and it became realized that that was a service that was needed, and hospice was born out of that. And very quickly it became part of the healthcare continuum, and Medicare became involved. And so because Medicare is involved, they have some policies and procedures and standards that we need to adhere to. One of those is making sure that we are providing our volunteers with 16 plus hours so that they learn all about everything, so that they have plenty of tools in their toolbox when we send you out to sit with a patient. One of the great things that I think that we do is we partner with an organization called We Honor Veterans. Do I have any veterans here? So I would like to say that one of the things that we do, my volunteers do, is they do something called Stars for Troops. And so we would like to say thank you for providing for our freedom and protecting us. Thank you for providing for our freedom and protecting us. So we take flags that can no longer be flown, and we cut them up and put them in this little bag, and we give them to our veterans. And it says, I am a part of our American flag that has flown over the USA. I can no longer fly. The sun and the winds caused me to become tattered and torn. Please carry me as a reminder that you are not forgotten. And then we take the remainder of the flag and we give it to a local VFW so that they dispose of that flag properly. We still want to make sure that you realize that we are respecting and honoring the flag, and that we really respect and honor and thank you. So we partner with We Honor Veterans to make sure that our veteran patients are properly thanked and honored, because sometimes veterans weren't properly thanked. They weren't properly honored for all that they have done for us. So I train volunteers who are veterans that go out to veterans when they are near the end, and they provide them with a certificate, and they provide them with branch pins, and they say thank you. And they also provide an opportunity for veteran to have a conversation. Perhaps there's something that's really stuck that they've never shared with their family, that they've never shared with anybody, and it's kind of a block to them dying peacefully. And so in comes a veteran who provides that presentation, who we start a conversation about what you did, what I did, and out of that comes an opportunity for a veteran to just say, I really need to tell you this. I can't tell you the number of times that my veteran volunteers will tell me that shortly after that presentation was given, that veteran died peacefully. And we are so thankful that we were able to do that. Some of the other things that we do is we have a Gold Star Luminary event, and I think you have a congregation member here named Karen who was great, kind of put some things up about us. So we have a Gold Star Family Luminary event. That's a national event held the last Sunday in September every year. And that's an opportunity for us to thank and provide support for those Gold Stars families who lost somebody in combat. And so we do that every last Sunday in September. We put luminaries all around the Dove House property. And we have a little service and ceremony. And so I invite you this year, if you would love to come, I'd love to have you come. We can put your veterans in your family, we can put their names on a luminary bag. We have a special place where we sit the Gold Star Family Veteran Luminary bags. And we're partnering with Mission Barbecue, and we're partnering with Carroll County Veterans Independence Project. We're taking some donations for them to start their holiday event. But one of the things that we do at Bridging Life is we make sure that we are giving the proper care, support, and resources to our veterans. That's important to us. And so my volunteers help do that. So I say to you, if you have a nudge in your heart, sometimes it takes 3 or 4 times. So sometimes you like, oh, that sounds interesting, and then somebody else will mention it to you. And if this is your 3rd or 4th time that you've heard about volunteering for Bridging Life, and you think that you might like to do that, I would love to talk with you about that, because there's opportunity to be in direct patient care, but there's opportunity to do things at your home or at our office that don't involve that, but they are all very important things. All very important to our patients and our patients' families, because we just wrap that family up in our care. Questions about volunteers or volunteering or anything else? One of the things that I like to say is, because there was a question about where, and so I always try to tell my volunteers, hospice care isn't a place, it's a service wherever you are. So if you kind of think about it like that, it's not, hospice isn't a place, it's a service of just being wrapped up in care and love. Questions? Ooh. Yes, sir.
I had 2 family members needing hospice care, and it was at your physical location. And I couldn't say enough about the excellent service they received from all the professionals, the volunteers, and I would say the main outstanding part of what we received was from the chaplain.
Mm. Thank you.
Really good.
Thank you. I would say that everybody on staff and our volunteers just has a special place in their heart for the work that they do. Yes, sir.
I have a question about if you have a client who's resistant to meds. I'm thinking of my mother. My mother was a nurse. So any meds she got, she looked it up in the book. And she needed anxiety meds, but she thought they were for crazy people. With palliative care.
So I'm going to hand this microphone back here, because you may have heard me say to somebody, I'm the only non-clinician in the staff right here. So I'm just going to pass this one right on.
Okay, so you were saying that you're resistant to
We had
medications.
involved palliative care to help convince her that she needed the meds, since the family wasn't able to.
We would do our best. We can help, and we can also help with things that are non-medication related as well. So not just, giving a medication, but different ideas to how to reduce that anxiety level, really kind of get to maybe what is causing the anxiety if we're able to. And then of course we have our social worker too that can help talk through any emotional issues that may be going on. So, and then if medication really is what we really want for her, or we really think it'll be beneficial, of course, they have to consent to it ultimately, but we would provide them with as much education as possible and do our very best. Any other questions?
There's a lot of paperwork up here, a lot of pamphlets and things, so I saw a lot of you taking a lot of notes. So if you want to just make sure that you got everything written down, if not, here's some things we'd love for you to pick up and take with you as you go.
Thank you very much for having. Thank you so much for having our team here. Again, we're 24/7, 7 days a week. If you guys ever just need someone to talk to, ask questions to, there's always someone on the other end of that phone. If you pick up our number and give us a call, there's always someone there that you can talk to and kind of sort out any questions you may have. But thank you. This has been an honor speaking here. So I'm going to give it back over.
Thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. We've learned a lot today. And this was a very important program for us, I think, today. Because we do have an aging population in our church. And we have videotaped the presentation today for those who are homebound. and are unable to be here, or a few people that are still working. So it'll be on our website, on our YouTube website, where we also have our Sunday services available for those people. So we thank you all. No more questions? Nope? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. You're welcome you back anytime. Mr. Art, I don't know if you met our minister. This is Pastor Melissa.
Hello.
She's doing all the tech stuff for me today.
But like most clergy in churches, had auto washer, chief
Absolutely.
Yeah. We couldn't do anything without her. So thank you all so much. And help yourselves for refreshments if you like anything.